Thanks for staying with us. Now, Parliament's Finance Committee has hinted it may expand its probe into the banking collapse and hold a public hearing on the issue. Chairman of the committee, Dr. Marcus Ibeyeboah, says the three-day closed-door probe, which began on Wednesday, is just an initial inquiry. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo has more.
Parliament Finance Committee, chaired by Dr. Marcus Ibeyeboah, on Wednesday began its probe into the collapse of some banks in the country. Officials from the Bank of Ghana as well as the Ministry of Finance appeared before the committee. But even before the hearings began, well, MP for Bolgatanga Central and NDC MP Isaac Adongo stormed out of the committee hearing. He protested they've not been given adequate documents to interrogate, and he described the sitting as something that will not be useful and that it's an attempted cover-up of what led to the banking collapse.
You can't give me an executive summary of Boulder's report and the rest are your press conferences. I can't be part of this. Wow. I can't be part of this.
And not, the full KPMG report is not even part.
This is what I have. This is the documents we are considering.
When it's already in the public domain.
Why should I sit in that meeting and rubber stamp it? I won't do it. Listen, this is a rubber stamp process. It will deliver no value. I am not willing to be part of it. These are the documents they gave to us. Statement of banking sector, press release by Bank of Ghana, press release, governance speech. When it comes to KPMG, they only give you conditions and opinions of Unibank. There were 5 asset quality reviews at Unibank. There were 4 of them in 1 month. We don't even have that report. They claim that there was a preliminary work that was done by KPMG to take a decision to go into it. We don't have that report. We don't even know the terms of reference of the job that KPMG did. We don't even know what contract we signed with Boulders. We don't even know the full report of Boulders except executive summary of Boulders' work. Why will I sit in that meeting? I won't sit in that meeting.
Isaac Adongo had a response from Majority Leader Seiche Mensah Bonsu. He says his decision to boycott the sitting is obviously not the best.
We have a bit until just a few moments ago. I think certainly not the best. If he has any legitimate claim, he should keep prompting the chairman, and if it's relevant to the transaction of business by the committee, I believe that it could be procured for the purposes of getting to the truth of this matter. We are all concerned, and we need to deal with it. I think it's important to also explain that Parliament operates by our own rules of procedure. What is happening here now, which I agree to, I've always taken a principled position that committees should be liberated to act proactively. Our orders provide that matters should be referred to committees before they act on them. And all speakers have held to that. We want to refer matters to them.
Some NDC MPs have also been reacting to Adongo's decision to boycott and his complaint about the document not being adequate. Host Central MP Benjamin Kpodo, who is a colleague on the NDC side, says they have received enough of the document and he doesn't agree that the entire sitting will not be useful at all.
It is within the right of every member of the committee to demand additional information in course of our work. So his demand is legitimate that we should have also, in addition to what has been given to us, the details of the AQR exercise carried out, as well as other reports, the details, we can demand them. So he just needed to table it. And that was what he did, and it's acceptable.
On the appearance of the governor of the central bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, well, a member of the finance committee on the NDC side, John Jinapo, described the appearance as very disappointing. He says the governor was evasive with the kinds of responses he gave when he appeared before the committee, particularly when it came to the issue of job loss and how come officials of the BOG have not been penalized several months after they supervised the collapse of the banks.
One response is job security. I need clear-cut response. That look, we shall keep employees for 3 months, we shall keep them for 2 months, so that employees are certain and clear in their mind that beyond 3 months, I might be losing my job. But if you say immediately and leave it blank, if we ask you, look, why did you not apply these laws when you realized that the banks were not doing well? Why didn't you revoke the license? And you can't give clear answers. If I ask you as governor, why did you grant license in May 2017 to 2 banks only for them to fail? And you say that your answer is that you were there for only 6 weeks. 6 weeks, you couldn't determine that, look, this bank were not fulfilling the obligations. Ultimate responsibility rests with the governor.
Well, Dr. Ernest Addison himself was unwilling to comment on this, except this quick response that he had to our question, indicating that, well, for him, his appearance before the committee went quite well. How did it go for you?
Very well. It was a pleasure sharing the information. Yeah.
Chairman of the Finance Committee, Dr. Marcus Ibeyeboah, in a brief address to the press, gave the hint that this could just be a beginning of the processes and that it's possible that in future a more open public inquiry will be held on what exactly led to the collapse of the banks after they've established exactly what happened in the next 3 days of the sittings that they would have.
After this 3-day exercise, we'll piece all the information together and then decide on the next steps, whom to invite going forward and what we'll do. If at that stage we want to do a full-blown public inquiry, we'll do so. But now we are dealing with the institutions.
So the probe is continuing on Thursday and Friday, when it's expected that officials of the Consolidated Bank, officials of KPMG, officials of PricewaterhouseCoopers, as well as the Securities and Exchange Commission and the National Insurance Commission would all be appearing before the committee again during closed-door sittings. From Parliament House in Accra, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo reporting.
And Joseph Opoku-Gakpo joins me with more on this in the studio. Hello, Joseph. So we do understand officials of the Finance Ministry also appeared before the committee. What do we know from, what they came to say at the committee?
So that team was led by Charles Boahene, one of the deputy finance ministers. Right. The committee had questions about where the money that went into the establishment of the new bank, something in the region of 8 billion or so, came from. They needed answers from that because they'd been concerned that Parliament hadn't approved any such thing. The finance ministry officials defended that and insisted that after analyzing the situation, they felt this was the right course of action in order to save jobs, in order to save the banking industry, and in order to ensure that confidence in the financial system continues to grow. And then they justify that one of the sure ways around raising the money is through the bond issues that we'll be seeing. Okay. And earlier we saw one of the committee members, Isaac Adungo, storming out of the committee's meeting. The other members of the minority, do they also stand with him on this particular position? No, they don't. Both the majority and the minority side. Earlier they had indicated that after each of the sessions there would be joint media briefings. Right. At the joint media briefing, both the majority and the minority side officially disassociated themselves, particularly the minority side, they disassociated themselves from Mr. Adongo's boycott and indicated that that is a personal position that he had assumed, and made reference again to some comments he had made earlier that they would return the banks to the original owners going into the future. Again, the minority says this is Mr. Adongo's personal position. They are not in support of it. Fifi Kwete, who is the leader of the minority side on the committee, because the ranking member is out of town, and the chairman of the committee, Marcus Ibeyeboah, addressed the press, and they've been reacting to Mr. Adongo's concerns. Okay, you can listen to
I think the Finance Committee is composed of 25 members, and by our attendance list, we had 20 members present today. Now, is he suggesting that the 19 other members also didn't have sufficient documents that they could peruse? Are all the 19 members in an exercise of a cover-up? Is that what he's suggesting?
The views he expressed earlier regarding returning access to owners of the bank is his individual position as well. Represents none of us on the Finance Committee, and I can see by extension doesn't represent the minority in Parliament as well.
And staying with banking issues, the receiver of defunct Unibank, Ni Amano Dodu, is accusing founder Dr. Kwabena Dufour and other directors of unlawfully contracting loans and breaching regulations. It will be recalled that the Bank of Ghana last month revoked the license of Unibank and 4 other banks, citing breach of banking regulations and insolvent nature as the basis. The receiver, in his writ, wants repayment of an amount of 5 billion cedis. There's more in the following report.
Other individuals named in the writ include former CEO Dr. Kwabena Dufour II, former board chairman Opoku Jemfi Boateng, former non-executive director Professor Newman Kojokusi, former executive director Owusu Ansa Are, among others. Some companies have also been named as defendants in the suit. They include Star Life Assurance, Urban Logistics, Bolton Portfolio Limited, Holder Holdings and Properties Limited. Mr. Dodu, in his writ, is seeking a declaration that some of the defendants have engaged in unlawful transaction and should be held liable for the repayment of an amount of 5,712,623,145 cedis. He wants all assets acquired with funds unlawfully obtained from the bank to be returned to the bank. Even before the case is determined, Mr. Dodu wants the registrar of the courts to inspect all of the assets with the assistance of the Inspector General of Police.
You're still watching Joy News Prime with me, Araba Kumsi. We're taking a short break. Don't go away. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. Now, the Union of Industry, Commerce and Finance Workers, UNICOF, has predicted that 1,700 workers are likely to lose their jobs following the consolidation of the 5 failed banks by September. There are concerns about delays in paying severance for workers who lost their jobs. Workers of Capital and UT Bank who lost their jobs last year have not received their severance pay. Labour Policy International is unhappy that workers' rights have been trampled upon. Joining us now to discuss job issues job losses rather in the banking sector, which has the potential of spiraling unemployment rates out of control, is Seth Abloso, Acting Director, Executive Director of Labour Policy International. Many thanks for your time, sir. Thanks for joining us on
Thank you for having me.
Now, you hold the view that workers' rights have not been respected. Can you explain this further?
Thank you. There's not been due process in all that we've seen with in the banking sector. In fact, in the latest merger of the 5 banks into what we are calling the consolidated bank, there's been, for instance, an order for them to reapply.
Yes.
The workers who are being asked to reapply are pioneers of consolidated bank. Mm-hmm. They began with the bank. Mm-hmm. In fact, they facilitated the seamless transition from the constituent banks, and therefore it's completely out of place to ask them to reapply for their jobs. Now, you ask for reapplication in situations where, for instance, because of an industrial action, a general strike, appointments have been terminated en masse, and then when there is a settlement, they are to be taken back, then you ask them to reapply.
But so are you saying that their rights have been disrespected or abused because they were, there when the banks were initiated?
They began with the bank. They made the bank.
Is that enough
possible.
Basis?
It's enough basis. It's enough basis because after the bank has been constituted with them, helping merge the systems to facilitate seamless operation. The workers transited with depositors, customers, etc. The depositors and customers were not asked to sign new mandate forms. Their facilities are continuing as if they were with their former banks.
I see.
Yes.
Now, I know that when these issues come up, usually the blame is put at the doorstep of the leadership of the banks, the directors and management. But can the workers also be absolved of blame?
The way it is now, you can't blame the workers in the state in which they are. For instance, one of the constituent banks in the consolidation is Beige Bank. And we are told that Beige Bank did not qualify to be a bank. Now, if it did not qualify to be a bank, one thought that the appropriate thing to do would have been to withdraw the banking license and let Beige Bank go back where it was previously as a savings and loans company and do what it was doing best. But how do you merge an institution that doesn't qualify to be a bank with other banks?
I see.
It's completely out of order.
As we speak, we know that 700 workers of Beige have been laid off. They've been asking for their severance package. They haven't received it as yet. But what law specific to this situation can they hinge on in order to get their benefits?
Effectively, what the bank has done is to declare them redundant. And this has been done in bad faith because they've not been presented with terms and conditions of service, nor have they been presented with set targets that they are unable to fulfill. But they are being asked to go. Yes.
So what avenues of redress would you point them to?
They need to be better advised. They need to seek appropriate advice.
Earlier, I was asking about the specific law that you know they can reference.
Section 65 of the Labour Act.
Right.
Section 65 of the Labour Act clearly points to the situation in which we are.
And what does Section 65
talks about redundancy.
Right.
It says where an employer contemplates the introduction of major changes in production, program, organization, structure, or technology of an undertaking that are likely to entail terminations of employment of workers in the undertaking, the employer shall provide in writing to the Chief Labour Officer and the trade union concerned, not later than 3 months before the contemplated changes, all relevant information, including reasons for any termination, the number of categories of workers likely to be affected, and the period within which any termination is to be carried out, and consult the trade union concerned on measures to be taken to avert or minimize the termination, as well as measures to mitigate the adverse effects of any terminations on the workers concerned, such as finding alternative employment.
So this is Section
65(1)
of the Constitution
of the Labour Act 2003, Act
2003.
Yes.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, the workers can, stand on this to challenge the management and get their severance packages.
Yes, because this is a new. They are employees. They started with the company, so they have rights. But the bank has not complied with these provisions. And again, it's important that they have, before resorting to seeking redress from outside the organization, it's important that they exhaust internal channels of redress. So from the Chief Executive Officer, the workers can proceed to appeal to a board of directors. A bank has been constituted, consolidated. We know only of the Chief Executive Officer who was named by the Bank of Ghana.
Right.
We don't know if it has a board of directors. We don't know who the chairman of the board is. Does it have this in place? Now, if it does, it's important to make this public.
What we do know is that the workers, many of the unhappy workers, have been, if you like, picketing or appealing to the management of the new bank to pay them their severance packages. But as a policy think tank, I know that a lot of workers are unaware of their rights. I'm sure a lot of workers don't even know this specific law as we speak. Are you going to be championing any legal action on behalf of these workers?
Well, there are many options available to us. We can bring some of these options to the attention of the workers concerned. But I'm hoping that it will not take legal action to deal with some of these issues. Our objective is to promote harmonious industrial relations, and legal action can impair relations. So that is the last resort that will advise them to go. But it's important to call on the management to respect the Labour Act 651 and consult appropriately.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Many thanks for your time. And that is Seth Abloso. He's a labor expert speaking on the rights of workers who've been laid off by the action of the central bank. We have some graphics on the job losses on your screen now. Now, 400 workers of Tema Rider, they were laid off March 20th, 2017. $700 workers of Beige Bank were laid off in August 2018. 1,000 former employees of the Royal Bank, the Construction Bank, Unibank and Sovereign Bank to be laid off by September. $400 BXC staff laid off July 2018. $30 GN Media staff laid off, and that's in August 2018. 100 estimated staff of EIB laid off. So those were some statistics of our latest figures we've had of job losses in recent months.